Hello guys, this is a demonstration of how we can deploy an application developed in React, Express and MySQL as a database. So if you look at the diagram, the front end we are going to develop in React, maybe the backend will be developing in Express, and MySQL is a database that we are going to use to store our data. The focus here is not on developing an application using React and Express, but the focus here is how we can deploy this application onto an AWS account. To do this, we'll be starting with the small database created in MySQL, then we'll go to the Express, and then at the end we'll develop a front-end component. So let's begin with MySQL now. So let me connect it to MySQL, say MySQL -u root -p. Let me enter my MySQL password. Let me see how many database do I have. So show databases will show me the list of databases. I want to create a new database, say create database. Maybe I can say this is MyDB, which is a very simple example of it. Let me use this MyDB and create a small example table. So the table goes like that: create table, say person. Every person is going to have an ID of type integer, which is going to be a primary key, and say the value will get auto increment. So auto increment. Every person is going to have a first name, which is going to have let's say varchar of 20. Let's say last name, which is again going to be a varchar, say again 20. Maybe an email address, it's the email address, which is again going to be a varchar of, let's say 20 or 30, fine. And then the password, which is again going to be a varchar of 20 characters. It's example table, so we are just going to insert some data into that person. We'll get some data, and that is it. So right now, if I go for describing it, I can confirm all the values there. Let's insert some data for testing, of course. Insert into person. I want to insert, say, first name, last name, email, and the password. And the values will go like, let's say user1, it's the first name. Again, say user1 adds the last name, user1@test.com as the email, and test1234 as the password. Let me go and say select star from person. I can see that the data is inserted successfully. So from our application stack, the database is complete. Now let's use an Express application to connect to the MySQL database and try to perform these two operations, insert and select. Now to do this, I'm going to go back to my temp directory. Here we will create an application. Say this is going to be my demo app, and inside this demo app, let's create one more directory. Say this is going to be my backend. So inside my backend, I want to install Express application, Express framework, npm install Express. We also need something like CORS. If I want to connect to the database, I would need MySQL2, that's a driver. So at a minimum, we need this information. And if you want to encrypt the password, we can say crypto.js is going to be used for encryption. Let's wait for a second, and we are done. Wonderful. So this is an example here. I'm going to start creating a server.js. This is where we will be creating a server, where we can say constant express is going to be equals to require express. We'll create an app, which is an object of Express, and we'll say app dot maybe I can say app dot listen on port 4000, and say this is like on 0.0.0.0, and this is the callback function. This callback function will be called when the server starts successfully. So I can say server started successfully on port 4000. That's it. Now in between these, I want to add a simple listener for getting the information from the table and inserting some information into the table. Now to do this, I want to create a new directory called as routes. Inside this, I want to create a route for person, so person.js, and right inside this, we'll again say express is going to be equals to require express. We'll use a router, which is going to be like express.router, and then we can say module.exports, which is going to be equals to router. Right inside this, I want to get I want to get the persons. So this is like a request, response, and here we will get the all the persons, and want to insert a person by saying post, and here we'll insert the data. Now to do this, we'll have to go for getting the database. To get the database, I'm going to create a new module called as db.js, and let's start adding the MySQL related code. So MySQL, which is going to be equals to require, say MySQL2, and here we will create the pool. So const pool, which is going to be equals to MySQL dot create pool. Right inside this, let's say host is going to be equals to localhost where the database is installed. User in my case is going to be equals to root. Password in my case it is going to be root. We'll go for wait for connections till all the connections are there. So wait for connections before you close the pool. Connection limit, I want to go for, let's say 10 will be maximum. I think it's better, and I think that's more than sufficient. So we can say module dot export, which is going to be equals to pool. So this is where we are going for pool. This pool will be used for making some connection. Okay, so this is the one which is used for executing the queries and getting the data. So I'm going to go back in my person and open the DB. I can say DB where we can say require /DB, and here we can perform all the operations. Now here I can say the query I want to execute is like select ID, first name, last name, email, password from person. This is the query I want to execute. To do this, we can say db.pool.execute. This is the query I want to execute, where I can get the error and let's say persons. This is the list of persons I will get. Now I want to get the data and want to return back to my client. To do this, I'm going to keep my result having the same structure all the time. So right inside this, I'll create a new file called as utils.js and define a function, say create result. Now I want every result to have either success or error as a status. So to do this, I'm going to say error and the data, and here we will check if error, I want to say that this is an error, and if it is a data, I want to say the status is going to be success. This can be done by saying result, which is going to be equals to an empty object. So if result, I can say this is the status, which is going to be an error, so my client can understand there is an error. And right inside this, I can also say what is an error that I'm getting. Next, if it is not an error, that means the status is success, so my client can understand that's a success result it has got. And then the data is nothing but the data I want to send along with that result. So return result will give me the actual result back. Okay, now let's go for module.exports and say this is going to be create result. That's it. So this is where we will create the result, we'll pass the error, we'll pass the data, and then we can send that response back by saying response.send. Here I want to create that object. To do this, we can come back here and say const utils, which is going to be equals to require /utils, and here we can create that result by saying utils.create result. This is an error and this is the person's data. That's it. This is how we can get all the persons from our database. Let us see if that works. To do this, first of all, we'll have to import that person's route. To do this, we can say it's like route person, or you can say the router person better. We can say require routes/person, and then we can say app.use for /person. I want to go back here and say this is route person. That's it. So here we will be adding the router. So maybe I can say add the routers. There's only one router I want to add, but in future if you want, you can keep on adding the routers below this. Wonderful. If you want to get the data from user, we'll have to again maybe we can directly do that here. We can say app.use.express.json. This is where we will be getting the JSON data from the user, from the body precisely in the post call. And maybe I want to also go for importing the course by saying require course, and then we can say app.use course.start. In a sense, I want to allow all incoming requests here. So I think this is very simple example we are trying. Now to test it, first we'll have to run this application. So let me go back to my command prompt. I can say node server.js. Server is running successfully on port number 4000. And if I want to test it, I can use an I can use a plugin called as a REST client. So if you go here and if you search for something like REST client, there are multiple options available here in Visual Studio Code. The one which we can install is something called as a Thunder client. It's very simple and it's very straightforward. It's having a similar user interface with Postman. So if you do not want to go for Postman, this is another alternative for you. I'm going to go for saying a quick new request here. This is the get part, and I can come back here, say http //localhost 4000/person, and if I say send, this will send a request and probably I can get the data. Oh, it says no database selected. It seems like I forgot to mention the database name, so no problem. I can say database name is going to be equals to mydb. But because I'm not using NodeMon, I'll have to stop this and then run this application again. Okay, hopefully this will work fine now. So maybe I can come back to my new request here. I can send it request and I can see that this is the data for first user. Wonderful. So seems like this is really working. If you want, you can just insert a couple of more data and test it here. But seems like if I'm getting first data, that means I can get all the data members there. Now this is how I'll be getting the information from the database. But within the person, I also want to insert some data too. Okay, so let's start getting the data from user by saying const save first name, last name, email, and password. It's like request.body. This is where we are going to get the data. Now the password that we are going to get here is the plain text. We want to convert it into a ciphertext, or we want to encrypt it. So to do this, I'm going to go back here and say encrypt or encrypted password better. This can be done by saying crypto.js let's say MD5, but crypto.js is not yet imported. So let's first go back here and say crypto.js, which we already have installed last time. We can import it here and say require crypto.js. Here it is, and then we can use that crypto.js in order to encrypt this password by saying crypto.js.md5, and then we can pass the password here. That's it. This is giving you the byte information which we have to convert it into the string information or string data, So first convert that into a string. So this is where we can say encrypt the database, encrypt the password to make it confidential. This is the way we can do it. Now we can free to execute the query by saying db.pool.execute. This is the query I want to execute. Oh, sorry, I forgot to create the query. Haha. So let's create a query by saying this is insert into the name of the table is person, which is going to be getting the data like first name, the last name, then the email, and then the password. So values will go like first, second, third, and fourth. That's it. Okay. So here we are getting the query. Parameters will go like first name, first name, last name, email, and the password will not be the plain password, but it will be the encrypted password. This is the query that I want to execute with those parameters, and this is the error and the result after the data gets inserted. So I can come back here and I can say response.send by using the utils.createResult by passing the error and the result. Okay, so if you look at the code, we are getting the data, then we are encrypting it, we are creating the query, and then we are executing it. Seems like that will do the job, but let's confirm it. Let me create a new request. This is the post request we are going with. I'm going to go back here and say localhost 4000/person. I'm going to go back to the body. This is the JSON content. Okay, so the first one is like the first name I want to go for. Let's assume that this is like user2 I want to go for. Then there is a last name which is going to be like user2, password, let's go for email first, user2@test.com, and then this is the password. So password is going to be like test, for example. Let's send it. Oops, it seems like it's not running right now. No worries, we can go for nodemon or node, whatever it is. I can use it here, send, and it seems like, oh, data is too long. It seems like the email that, I'm sorry, the password that we are using seems like it is little bit shorter than the file, I mean the encrypted version which is getting created. Let me verify it. If I go for desk person, seems like the password is having only 20, and for MD it should like almost, maybe I should make it around maybe 60 or 80. So what I'm going to do here is like, I'll say alter table person drop column password, okay, and then again alter table person add a column. Let's use the password again, but this time I'll say varchar 100, you know, so this will be okay, hopefully. If I go and say send, things are really working fine. I see that the data is the result is successful, and it says the insert ID is equals to 2, which means if I go back to executing this request, I should get both the records, user 1 and user 2. Naturally the password for this is null because I dropped that column for user 1. It seems like our database, our if you look at the diagram, our database is also ready and our backend is also working fine. So both of them are ready. I want to go back here and start working on the React application. Now to work on the React application, let's go to the directory. Let's say this is demo app, and right inside this we'll create a new React application. So create React app, maybe I can say front end. It's going to be very simple. It's creating an application. Great. It seems like it got created here. Wonderful. So now let's continue with that front-end application that we have created here. Let's open this here and see if it works here. Okay, so by default it is going to start with app.js. What I'm going to do right now is like, let me go back, start this by saying npm.start, or rather npm start. This is going to start the application here. Seems like it has started on my other monitor. Here it is. Okay, it seems like it is running now. Great. So now what we are going to do here is like, we will start writing the code. So I don't need this one. This is where it is going to be adding that, the demo application here. So what I'm going to do right now is like, I'm going to go back to the get bootstrap, use this link here. I'm going to put that right inside my HTML, so I don't have to keep it anywhere else. Put that right here. This is the bootstrap one. So I can start writing the code right inside this. It is going to be very simple application, So first thing first, I think I need one component. So let me create the directory called as components, and right inside this I'm going to show the person's data. So it's going to be like person component.js. Okay, so let's create the person component. Right, like this. We'll be getting a person data as as an attribute here, and then we can just return. Maybe we can return d for now. We'll see how it can be returned. We'll think of it later, but right now let's go for module.exports. I'm so sorry, it is where we want to just say exports, and we can say export default person. That's it. So here we are sending the div right now. So probably I can just come back and say this is going to be maybe if I want to show that information in terms of a simple div, I can start with the person information will go like that. This is like the first name, which is where we want to get the information from person dot first name. Let's go for the last name, email. I don't think password is needed here, so we don't have to show password. This is for our understanding only. So this is going to be like last name. That's it. This is a very simple example we want to try. Now to get this information, just for example, I'm saying, let me just go back here and create a in this case I want to get some data from getting the data by calling that API, so I'm going to go back here and say use state for creating a state value, and say by default it is going to be an empty array, and I'll call this as persons and set persons. Now how do we call the API then? To call the API, I can say get persons, and to do this let's use there are multiple options for us. We can go for external frameworks, or we can go for the simplest one like the fetch, so maybe I can say fetch and use that API localhost :4000/person. Then I want to get that response, and let's go for response.json because it's going to be JSON, we know for sure. And then this is the data. Let's put that data in console for a second and see if it really works. I want to call this function when the component gets loaded, so I can say use effect, and then we can say like this. This is not needed. We can simply go back and say get persons. That's it. Okay, so right now we are not using it anywhere, but I'm just putting that data into the console. So if I come back, it says use effect is not defined, which is natural. If I go for it, it will get added right there. If I say go to inspect and look at the console, I can see that the data is coming back here with the data. This is like success, and I'm getting the information here. Wonderful. This is what I was expecting, right? So out of this I can check, if the data of status, which is going to be equals to success, meaning if I get the successful data, only then I can say set persons data of data. Now this data is the variable, and this data is the key inside the variable, which is what I'm talking about here. This is an array having this information there, right? Or if you want, you can say this is going to be like result. If you are kind of confused with that data and this data, I think it's better for me to say it is a result. It's very simple. Now I want to go back here and get that person's information, say map on it. This is the person I'm going to go for, and say return. This is like person, and this person is going to have a person information, which is like the person. So if I go back to my UI, it says the first name, last name. Oh, it seems like there is a key problem. That's fine, that we can handle it here. That key is going to be equals to person dot ID, because ID is the one which is unique for it. That is fine. It seems like it's not showing any information here, isn't it? Let me check it here. What am I getting back as a person? So it is person, isn't it? So let me just go back here and say what is the person data I'm getting. Oh, it is sending the person. Okay, so now we have to fix it. To fix it, I think it's, oh, I messed it here. Sorry, it's my bad. It's kind of props, I need to get it. And within that props, I need to get this object person. So I think this is not needed. It's simple as that. And boom, I started getting the information here. It's as simple as that. Okay, coming back here, just want to say that this is a separate entity. So just want to get back and put an HR. This is not the, the UI that I'm going to focus on. It is just an example where we are studying the data. That's it. If you really want, you can go back here and say this is like H1, and say this is going to be a person's list. So again, choice is yours, whatever you want to add. Information is something I'm looking for, not like how to write the code and other stuff, because the focus here is on the deployment, not on the development. So it seems like my application is ready, the front end is ready, wonderful, the back end is ready, and the database is also ready. Now I think the time has come to go for uploading this information, uploading this application onto the onto the AWS, right? Now let's start uploading this application to the AWS. Now to do this, let's go step by step. So I'm already opening the AWS account here. So we'll start creating one EC2 instance, and then we'll start uploading, let's say backend, then the front end, and then we can make sure that everything is working fine by visiting the front end application. So to do this, I'm going to go back to the instances. Let's create a new instance here. I'm going to call this as a demo server. We'll be using Ubuntu for this. We'll be using t2.micro. Make sure that you are having your own key pair. I'm going to use, let's create a new one and say this is like demo server. Let's create a new key pair. I think rest I'll keep them as simple as possible or as default as possible, except the security group. I'll make sure that both HTTP and HTTPS are allowed. Okay. Now I'm going to go back and launch this instance. It will take a few minutes for getting everything set up. I'm going to go back to all my instances. This is the public IP address of this machine, which is getting started in a few minutes. Okay. So let's come back here and open this application. Sorry, let's come back here and first connect to this application -i. It's going to be like downloads, and if I look at the name, it's like demoserver.pem. It is like Ubuntu @ this IP address. It is saying connection refused. It's still because it is kind of starting. Oh, it's now running here. First of all, if I go for it, it will give me an error because my key is having the permissions which are not accurate enough. So we'll have to change it. To change the permissions, we can say sudo chmod 400, and then we can go for downloads demo server. That's it. Okay, so let's use the same command again, and it seems like we'll be connecting to that server. Wonderful, we have connected. Now let's start from the database. So we can say apt-get update. Will take a second or two. Okay, seems like it is it is updating. Okay, it got updated. Wonderful. Now we'll go for installing MySQL. So we can say apt-get install MySQL server. Wonderful. Yes, I want to. Great, it's about to get done. Wonderful. Okay, it seems like MySQL is running, which means MySQL is successfully getting installed. Wonderful. So let's go back and reset your root user password. We can say sudo MySQL. Wonderful. We can say alter user root @localhost. Identified. Alter user identified with MySQL native password by root, and then we can say flush privileges. That's it. So root username, the root user's password is set. Now we can say MySQL -uroot -p. Root is the password. Now I can create the database. Create database my_db. Last time we did that. Now we can say use my_db. We are running the script on our server, so I can come back here. Last time we already have created the table here, so I can just grab it from here and then put it there. That's it. So my table got created successfully. Wonderful. Now I want to go back and install Node.js. So I'm going to search for Ubuntu Node.js 16 because by default Ubuntu comes up with the older version of it, and I want to go for using the latest version. So let's come back here, copy this, say curl, download it here. This is for 16. All we have to do here is apt-get update, and then we can go for apt-get install Node.js -y. So it's going to be like sudo apt-get update, and then we can say sudo apt-get install node.js. It will take a second or two, and then it will get installed. Wonderful, got it installed. If I look at node -v, it seems like we have got 16.19 installed here. Great. Now we have to upload our backend application. So this is my backend application. I got let's do it one more time. Let's get it compressed. This is the one. It is there in my temp directory. So what I'm going to do right now, I'll open another command prompt, go back to the temp demo app. I can see that file here. Let's upload this by saying scp -i keys, and then we can go for downloads, and then the demo server. The file I want to upload is like backend.zip to ubuntu @ need to copy that public IP address from here, / and then we are done. Will take a second. Yeah, it's done. Great. So now I can see that file here. I need to unzip it, and for unzip we'll have to say sudo apt-get install unzip. Great. So if I go back here and say unzip backend, I can see that the backend application is now working fine. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the backend. Now, how do you run this application continuously? To run this application continuously, we'll have to use a process manager. So if you search for Express, you can search for PM2. So this is the one which is generally used for installing or running the Express application. It has already been mentioned inside that Express website itself. This is the one that we are going to use, PM2. So how do we install? It's like, how do we start? It's like PM2 start application.js, and this is the way we can install it. So all we have to say here is sudo npm install PM2 -g for global. So let's get it installed, and once it gets installed, we can easily start our server. PM2 start server.js. That's it. Our server started successfully. If I look at PM2 list, I can see that it is online and it is working fine. Now, I want to use this backend application that we were using, and we want to test it one more time. But here, the IP address is changed. The IP address is not localhost anymore. This is the one which is given by my EC2 instance. Here it is. Let me copy this, come back here and check it. This is not going to work for sure. It is not going to work because when you are sending the request to port 4000, by default this instance has all the ports closed except the 22, that's SSH, HTTP and HTTPS, because we opened it. So we need to open that port number 4000. To do this, select this here, go to security. This is the security group. Click on that. Go back here. You can see port number 80, 443 and 20. These are the only open port. So you can click on inbound rules, add a rule, custom TCP. 4000 is the port number. This is like all, anywhere IP4, and say save the rule. Unless you do it, nothing is going to work. So now if I go back and send it, you see I'm getting nothing, because getting nothing in a sense, getting the data but empty data. At least I started getting something. This is empty data because I don't have anything here. First thing, we'll have to insert some data. So let's come back here. So this is my user1 and this is the password test. If I go for here, oops, this is the IP address we have to go for. Say send. Seems like, I forgot to change the size of that data. I did the same mistake, I guess. No worries, I can fix it very quickly. MySQL -ru -p. Let's go back here. Use MyDB. Again, alter table person, drop column password, and alter, it's going to be like alter table person, add a column password, and this is going to be like varchar, say 100. Okay, So hopefully this will solve my problem. So if I come back here, if I send it, you see the data got inserted successfully and I can still get the data here. Wonderful, everything is working fine. Now it seems like our backend is really working fine. I'll have to go back to my front-end application and make a small change. This is my front-end application. Now instead of using localhost here, make sure that you are using the IP address of your machine. Now once you are done with that, all we have to do here is go back to your front-end application. This is where the front-end application is, and use yarn build. You can either use yarn build or you can also use npm run build. So basically we are building the React application, which is going to create a new directory called as a build, and right inside this you can see the build files. Right click on that, say compress, and you can see that this is the archive file. I'm going to change it to website.zip and we'll upload that zip file there. To do this, let's go back to the build directory. Right inside this you can find the website, so we can upload this file to my server by saying it is going to be website.zip. It will get uploaded in a second. Wonderful. Now to run this website, we'll have to install the Apache web server. To do that, we can say apt-get install Apache 2. Will take a second and Apache will get installed. It's taking a couple of more seconds, I believe. Oh yeah, it's done. Wonderful. So let's go back to var www and html, and here we have to bring that file and extract. So first remove that index file. Let's move this from here, that's website.zip, and then we can say sudo unzip that website.zip. That's it, we are done. So now if I come back and say use that same IP address, put it here, you can see that it is kind of giving me the information about that person list. Now it seems like the person list is empty, isn't it? Right? So I think it's better we can check it quickly. We can go back here, we can open a network tab, give it a quick refresh and see if that API is getting called. Oh, that API is not getting called. You can see that. Why is it not getting called? Let me just check it quickly. Here it is. You see there is a problem here. I think I should have gone for removing it. Here it is. Let me remove that. Now whenever you change your code, you'll have to follow all the process again. In a sense, first you'll have to go back, build this application one more time, yarn build or npm run build. Now once you build, probably it will again create the new directory for you. So this will go away. You can see that it is removing this. Again select all of them, compress it, again change it, say website. Again you have to upload it. We already have done that before, so let me upload it one more time. Come back here, remove all the files again, again bring it back here. This is like website.zip, and then we can say sudo unzip website.zip. Now we have uploaded. I think if I go and quick refresh, oh yeah, it started working here. Wonderful, isn't it? So it started working fine. Again, if I go back, open my application here by saying root -p, again root, use my _db, and if I say insert into user, or why should I do it? I think we already have got the API ready, isn't it? So we can come back here, we can change that to user2, the way we were doing it. User2 got installed successfully. If I come back and say refresh, I should be able to see the second user. Wonderful. You see, things are really working fine. So this is a simple example of how do we make sure that the application is really working on the cloud. Again, the focus here was not on the development, the focus here was how to deploy the application. We also have seen if there is a problem in your application, if you want to fix it, you have to follow the same process again, and there is no escape from that. If you do not want to do that, then there is another option called a CI/CD pipeline, which can do this job automatically for you. And when I say CI/CD pipeline, this problem can be solved by using an application called as a Jenkins. Okay, so this is a small demo how you can use a React, Express and MySQL application and put it on the cloud. Thank you guys.